Our story begins shortly before 3 o'clock in the afternoon of May 23rd, 1894. It was a rather slow afternoon down at the First National Bank of Longview. The bank employees on hand included Bank President Joe Clemens and his brother, cashier Tom Clemens. They were discussing a letter that had been sent to a gentleman in Longview.
Tom, here's that letter I was telling you about at the town meeting. Can you imagine a fella mailing a letter to somebody warning that they better take their money out of the bank because it's going to be robbed? Now, what did that letter say?
Well, Joe, the note reads, we take this method of informing you that on or about the 23rd day of May, AD 1894, we will rob the First National Bank of Longview. So take notice accordingly and withdraw your deposit as this is a straight tip. Well, today being May 23rd and all, if they're going to rob the bank, they better hurry up. We're about to close.
Now into the bank comes Jenny Renfro. Remember, Jenny had married outlaw Jim Bennett only weeks earlier. One of the bank officials asked her about her new husband.
Well, howdy, Miss Jenny. We heard you got married recently. Where's your new husband? Haven't seen him in a while.
I wish I knew. He and my pa had an argument and he rode off. I hope he comes back soon. I really miss him and I hope he's all right.
Jenny then got a couple of dollars from her account to go shopping. She wished Tom and Joe Clemens a nice day and walked out of the bank. Little did Jenny know that in just a few minutes, she would see her newlywed husband, Jim Bennett. At precisely 3 p.m. on May 23rd, 1894, Bill Dalton and his gang tied the horses at the edge of town and walked through the middle of the street. There's no effort to hide their identity, no mask or bandanas to cover their faces. In fact, as these four gentlemen walk along Tyler Street, the local doctor who had treated Jim Bennett called out.
Jim, when are you going to pay me that money that you owe me?
Doc, that's where we're headed right now, to the bank.
Bill Dalton walks in and hands a note to Tom Clemens.
This is to introduce you to Charles Speckelmeyer, who wants some money and is going to have it. Signed B and N.
At first, Banker Clemens believes this is some sort of a joke, but when you see Bill Dalton's gun, the bank officials realize the joke's on them. This is a holdup.
If next time somebody writes you a letter to tell you they're gonna rob the bank, you better pay heed. Now fill up the sack. Now open that bank vault. No, sir, I won't do it.
Tom Clemens and Bill Dalton began to struggle. Dalton points his revolver at Clemens, but fortunately the gun doesn't go off. And at this point, a bank customer walks into the bank and realizes what's happening.
Bank robbery! Bank robbery! The bank's being robbed!
Well, at this point, the alarm has been sounded, and downtown Longview turns into a battle zone.
Don't shoot him again. Can't you see he's already dead?
Within minutes, the Longview bank robbery has become one of the most bloody shootouts in the history of the Old West. The first victim was saloon keeper George Buckingham, who ran out of Munden's saloon when he first heard the shooting. He was shot down by outlaw Jim Bennett. The next to be shot was Charlie Learning, a mill hand at Brown and Fluellen's sawmill. That's T.C. Summers over there. He got drilled in the hand. He's lying in the street over there is Walter McQueen. We thought old Walter was a goner for sure, but he eventually recovered, although he was crippled for life. Right over here, perhaps the luckiest man in Longview that day, although he didn't look like it right now, that's our city marshal, Matt Muckleroy. The marshal, you see, was shot right in the heart by outlaw Jim Bennett. Well, he was almost shot in the heart, but believe it or not, the bullet from Bennett's gun struck a silver dollar and a leather coin purse that Marshal Muckleroy carried in his shirt pocket. Although gravely wounded, thanks to that silver dollar, the marshal will survive his wound and live to a ripe old age. Now, folks, we introduced Deputy Will Stevens and local businessman Claude Lacey, who realized that if this shooting is going to end, they're going to have to get outlaw Bennett out of the way. At almost the same instant, Stevens and Lacey will aim their weapons at Jim Bennett. So now, back to the action. Amid a hail of gunfire, Bill Dalton and the Knight brothers make their escape out of town. Gregg County Sheriff's deputies quickly raised up a posse to go after the outlaws. Good people along. Dalton and the Knights made their way to the Indian Territory of Oklahoma, taking with them some $2,000 in coins and banknotes. Nobody at the time realized it had been the infamous Bill Dalton who led the robbers. Only 2 weeks later, Bill Dalton was surrounded at his hideout, a cabin in Oklahoma's Arbuckle Mountains, and was shot down by lawmen. Inside the cabin, the posse found most of the money that had been taken in the Longview bank robbery. But there were 2 more victims of the Longview bank robbery we need to tell you about. The first was young Jenny Renfro, who had married Jim Bennett. Remember, Jenny hadn't seen Jim in weeks, but today she finds her newlywed husband lying dead on Fredonia Street. And when the outlaw is buried in Greenwood Cemetery in an unmarked grave the very next day, Jenny is the only mourner at the funeral. But there's another victim too. It's Tom Clemens, the heroic bank employee who had slammed shut the vault and struggled with Bill Dalton. Tom Clemens had run down Bank Street to escape the bandits. He dives into what he thought was the safety of a vat of lime being used for a local construction project. He stayed face down in that vat for several minutes, breathing the lime into his system as the bullets whistled overhead. After that, Tom Clemens never again was in good health. And less than 2 years after the bank robbery, Tom Clemens died at age 42. Unlike Jim Bennett's funeral, every business in town closed, and hundreds of people turned out to pay their final respect to Tom Clemens. And that, friends and neighbors, ends our tale of the historic events of May 23rd, 1894, the Bill Dalton Longview Bank robbery.